Good afternoon to all the good viewers of our English program. As usual, allow me to first share the link to our Telegram page so that those who want to follow us can do so. And I'll also have the chance of clicking on it with my phone so I can follow it as well and see if there's any problems. If there is, I can solve it for you right away. In the Persian language, I played some music in the background, and I think I need to get a much stronger speaker so that it can play louder than what it does now. So I'll be looking forward to doing that. Then I can do more for both the English and the Persian language because we've added some more softwares and we've made the program even better. Today we're going to talk about first the war in Israel and how they tried to get it to World War III and how Israel is actually trying to keep it out of turning into a World War III or a regional war or anything like that. As we know, Israel says they're fighting against Hamas in the south of Israel in the Gaza Strip. And they're attacking in there, and they say that they've killed well over 100 terrorists. Some say 15,000, and so on and so forth. And we all know that since October 7th to November the 11th, which is today, they've been attacked multiple times by rockets coming in from southern Lebanon into northern Israel. And each time, Hezbollah says, it's not them, it's Hamas. Hamas is apparently everywhere and anywhere and wherever. However, Israel keeps saying, we only shoot back and strike back from the place that we see rockets coming to us. Okay? Meaning, if Hamas is sitting in southern Lebanon and they're shooting missiles, where Hamas is sitting, we have to call position A. And from where Israel is shooting to retaliate, we would have to call position B. Now, position B is shooting directly at position A. Meaning, when someone dies in position A, it should mean, if Hezbollah is true, that the Hamas terrorist would die. However, according to Hezbollah's own sources, in the Arabic language, Hezbollah confirms that over 100 of their terrorists have been killed by Israeli soldiers. Yet in English, they say only 78. So only in Arab counting can 78 and 100 have the same meaning, the same value, the same equal. Arabs don't know how to count. I mean, they're lazy. Come on. Everything in their country is done by non-Arabs. They gotta have the Americans and the Canadians and the Australians and the British and the French come in to be their doctors and nurses. Engineers have to be Iranian and others. Everything has to be done by someone. Even the taxi driver has to be from Bangladesh and Pakistan and India. That's how it works in a rich Arab society. So you don't expect them to be able to count well. So here we have a dilemma. How is it that Hamas is shooting and Israel is retaliating to the same place where the missile was shot from? And instead of it being a Hamas terrorist that's dead, it's a Hezbollah terrorist that's dead in Lebanon. The only answer is, it was the Hezbollah terrorist who was shooting, and therefore, in retaliation, he got killed. So now we caught Hezbollah in a lie. They said it's not them, but it was totally them. You see how we find the answer and bring it to you and how obvious it is? Now, of course, the news media would never do that because the news media wanted to make money off of a World War III. And it's not in their favor to tell you that the war is ending before it can expand. But don't worry. Here we have two more groups. One, grandfather of all terrorists, Joe Biden. And two, father of all terrorists, Sayyid Ali Khamenei, the spiritual leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran. These two are following the globalist agenda of World War III. How do we know this? Well, they're playing a hide-and-seek game in the Middle East. Iran tells its terrorists in the region to attack American army bases. And in return, Joe Biden attacks armored compounds that may or may not have weapons in them. And in the meantime, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will say, don't, like a Saturday Night Live, when in the past you had the guy that used to stretch out his leg and keep people away and say, yeah, back in the 90s. He does the same. Don't. Like as if that really scares anybody in war. It's all a little game they're playing, you know. I won't hurt you. It won't really hurt me. Sure, you can hit a drone that's worth $32 million in the air and destroy that, but really, who did you kill? What did you do? Nothing, baby, nothing. It's just some money. I mean, the United States has lots of it. But what it does is it allows the news agencies to continuously say, Iran was behind this, Iran was behind that, Iran did this, Iran did that. They won't say Islamic Republic of Iran. They say Iran because they want you to go to war with Iranians. They don't want you to go to war with the Islamic Republic officials that are killing and committing genocide on the Iranian people. No. They want you to continue the war with the poor Iranian people who don't want these officials in charge anyway. And of course, the media is backed by Democrats with a capital R, by the way. Some of you will catch that later. It's okay. When you write it down, make sure when you're writing Democrats, you write it with a capital R, and then you will definitely catch it. So those backers are pushing this propaganda towards World War III. Iran will come out and say, this war will definitely escalate, but we're not involved. We don't know, but they totally know everything and they're totally involved. And then Joe Biden will come along and prolong the war so that Iran can continue its escalation towards a World War III and a regional war. How does Joe Biden do that? Very easy, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Biden has now forced Israel to have a 4-hour rest every single day. You know, they have to take a rest in this war. You know, a break, time out. You know, how else will you have a war? You got to have wars where there's timeout. Like, in a boxing ring, when the round is finished, you take a little timeout and you go back and you sit down and you get some more intuitive knowledge from your coaches in your corner, and they tell you what you did wrong and what you should do right and how you should go forward. We need timeout, of course. Hamas gets tired, and they got to run from one tunnel to another. Come on, I mean, they're running like rats, underneath the ground here and there. And some of them, the smaller ones, the ones that don't have big degrees, they're running around like little cockroaches, So they need some help here. Come on. Joe Biden, grandfather of all terrorists, has to help out. So Israel has to give them a 4-hour timeout. And then, on top of the 4-hour timeout, they also have to, Israel has to give them a 3.5-hour warning prior to the timeout, which means they have to continuously proclaim, we're giving you 4 hours of safety at such and such time, send that by pamphlets and flyers in the air, then go on speakers and say that throughout the city. Now, of course, the soldier, when they're doing all that, they can't be at war. So this means 7.5 hours of the day. Put half an hour towards moving the troops out of the area where they were fighting, and another half an hour to go back to where they were fighting. Now you're sitting at 8.5 hours. Give them 3 15-minute breaks for some kind of a breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now you're sitting at 9 hours and 15 minutes. Gives them another 15 minutes to relieve themselves. After all, they are human beings. They need to go and, use the washroom. I mean, they are human. They're not robots. So give them 15 minutes for that. You're already sitting at 9.5 hours. Give them a good 8 hours of sleep. I mean, stressful. And now your 24 hours is pretty much gone. You got like what, 6 hours left? Something around there? So out of 24 hours, you can only fight for a small amount of time. You might as well just come and the next move Joe Biden should do is just say all the IDF soldiers of Israel should have both their arms tied behind their back, and that tying of chaining their 2 arms should connect to another chain that should shackle their ankles too, and they should just crawl on the floor at this point and fight with Hamas, because I mean this war is the most ridiculous war ever. On one side, you got to first tell them where you're going to attack ahead of time so everyone can leave the buildings, which tunnel you're going to blow up so they can leave it. And then you got to give them a 3.5-hour warning before you give them a 4-hour break. And you give them a 4-hour break. I mean, what kind of war is this? This is not war anymore. Yet on the other side, terrorist Hamas doesn't have to do any of these. Terrorist Hezbollah doesn't have to do any of these. The Houthis don't have to do any of these. They're free. Grandfather of terrorist Joe Biden keeps them free. Do whatever you want. But when it comes to the Israelis, now, you can't go out and kill these guys. Don't worry. Just, stay. Prolong it. Give Iran the chance to continuously try to get America into the war by its attacks through its proxy. Yes, that's Joe Biden for you, ladies and gentlemen. Father of terrorism. Wherever this guy goes, it's like he shakes his pants and the terrorists like cockroach come right out. He knows cockroaches. He used to talk about cockroaches when he was trying to run as president, remember? We would talk about cockroaches, kids crawling on his leg like cockroaches. You remember that? Black kids would crawl on his leg when he went to the swimming pool like cockroaches. He thinks black kids are cockroaches. Remember Joe Biden? Yeah. The same guy. Same guy. Yeah, nothing has changed. 2020, he was calling little black kids cockroaches, crawling on his legs. Yep. We remember it. Everyone remembers it. Well, not everyone. Democrats are very slow. Their IQ is very, very low. They forget. They're forgetful people, unfortunately. What can we do about it? It is what it is. Now, along this ideology, there's a difference between World War III and World War II and World War I. In World War I and World War II, it was mostly just in specific regions. People from around the world came and went to Europe, and the war was mostly in Europe. I mean, there was some stuff that happened outside of Europe, but the big chunk where people died happened to be in Europe. Then World War III, they want this to be in all your cities, in all your countries. Hence, the Muslim population that came, plus the youth that became university students, and in those university students, they've been brainwashed with communist ideology, are to be set loose in the streets of your countries, in your cities, to fight with you, the people, the citizens of that country. When your soldiers go out, the idea is for these people to attack, loot, destroy, kill. We already see some signs of that right now. What are those signs? Very simply put, we see large protests going on where they attack anyone they see that thinks differently from their ideas. In England, the police are too afraid to do anything about it, and often will arrest the innocent to somehow make these protesters happy. In New York, we see them vandalize shops, monuments, police cars, and no one does anything about it. In California, we saw them kill an old Jewish man, and the media tries to cover it up and not call it a hate crime, not call it a terror, but, oh, a man died. Oh, just like anybody will die. It's okay. Someone died. While we see Mossad talking about they want to kill the terrorists, but no one's talking about attacking the head of the snake, which is the Islamic Republic of Iran. I mean, if you really wanted to end, you go after Iran. You take out the government of Islamic Republic of Iran, and you restore Iran as just Iran, which is what the Iranian people want. You see, if you take out Hamas, let's say Israel takes out Hamas. Let's say Israel goes with their plan that a future Gaza will be a Gaza where there will be no more weapons in Gaza. All the kids will be taught not to kill the Jews. And we will have a coalition of governments from around the world there to enforce this. Well, first of all, Mr. Mossad, you've already made a few mistakes. Allow me to educate you and enlighten you on your mistakes. Because as an ex-Muslim, I understand Islam better than you, the Jew, thinking you understand Islam. So I will help you so that you can help us. Okay? How you can help us? We need a free Iran. As long as Islamic Republic of Iran is there, Israel is not safe, and the genocide on the Iranian people continues. So let me help you so you can help me. I want help so that we can free Iranians, stop the genocide, get rid of Islamic Republic of Iran. You need help because you want the killing of Jews to stop. Hence, at this point in time, we've met each other at a point in the road where our separate method of walking and struggle has reached one point. So allow me to enlighten you. As long as a person is a Muslim, they have to believe what Muhammad says. And what Muhammad says is there is a fake God named Allah. And this God has a book that God wrote himself. Was not attributed to anybody. There was no Moses that came and wrote certain books, and then other prophets that came and wrote certain books, like the Old Testament. No. This is a book purely made by the so-called Allah, God, and whatever is in it has to be done. And in that book, it says to kill the Jews and the Christians and the polytheists and those who leave the religion, the hypocrites. Wherever you find them, meaning from the river to the sea, they have to finish you. The rest of you, when you leave and you go to New York, they have to follow you to New York. You go to California, they got to follow you to California. You go to Paris, they're going to follow you to Paris. You go to wherever you want to go, they will follow. Because they got to finish the job. Muhammad says, even there will come a day when the trees and the rocks will speak and tell the Muslim believers that a Jew is hiding behind them so that they can kill him. It is in the ideology of the religion. The Quran says that the Jews and the Christians are the worst of creatures, meaning even the cockroach is above you and me. Me as the Christian, you as the Jew. Hence, we are completely filthy, spiritually filthy. The word used is najis, meaning uncleanable. It will never become clean because it's spiritually dirty. Hence, they have to cleanse us by killing us. They got to cut our throats. That's what Islam stands for. You can say he's a good Muslim. A good Muslim has to obey, or else that person becomes a non-Muslim. And the crime of being a non-Muslim is you must also die. So a good Muslim is one that is a terrorist, which means if you kill all the Hamas and get rid of all the Hamas and try to do what you are proclaiming you want to do in Gaza, tomorrow it will be guaranteed, as long as there is Muslims in Gaza, they will want to kill you. And as long as you let Islamic Republic of Iran stay alive, it is a guarantee that they will give weapons again to those Muslims like they do now to Hamas, and they bypass you. How long have you tried to stop the shipment of weapons? You try catching it in the water. You try finding tunnels. You tried everything, Mossad. But at the end, you failed. The weapons reached the Hamas. Tomorrow, there will be no Hamas. They'll make up a new name. And that new terrorist name will get the weapons. Those children will grow up. They will say they are Muslim. They have to do what their God, Allah, ordered them to do. And they will come after you again and again and again. You can kill 1,001 Hamas groups. Kill one terrorist group after another. Islamic Jihad, Islamic Jihad, cha-cha-cha-cha-cha, or whatever name you want to put on them. I guarantee you another one will come. And you would have failed in your mission because you killed one, it was replaced by another. Much like if you have a farmland and beside your farmland there's a pack of coyotes. Well, if you kill that pack of coyote, another pack of coyote will take their place. If you kill a mountain lion, another mountain lion will take its place. If you kill a pack of wolves, another pack of wolves will take their place. Likewise, you kill one terrorist group, another one will take its place. Because Islam teaches them that. At the end of the day, they have to become a terrorist. They have two options as a Muslim: leave Islam or become a terrorist. You don't believe me? Look at all the protests that are going on pro-Palestine. Well, who's kidding who? It's pro-Hamas. If it wasn't pro-Hamas, they wouldn't be ripping the pictures of captive people. They do that because it's pro-Hamas. Media calls it pro-Palestine. There was no Palestine. Everybody knows there is no Palestine. Even the book that Allah wrote doesn't have the name Palestine in it. Palestine just means Hamas, means terrorism, means Islam. Means this land has to come back to the fold of Muslims. Means terrorism. Means we'll kill anyone who's not a Muslim. That's what it means, Mr. Mossad. It's time that you learn. Fight the real war. I know you don't want it to become a World War III, but you need to figure out a way to take out the government of Islamic Republic of Iran. You take that out, you save yourself from a World War III. You save and ensure the lives of all Jewish Israelis that they will never be attacked. You cut the head of the snake and you don't have to worry about it slithering into you. As King Reza Pahlavi says, the head of the octopus is the Islamic regime of Iran. Stop fighting the tentacles. Sure, you can take on the tentacles now, but you need to take out the eye. You need to take out the head of that octopus in order to stop the tentacles. Or else, how many tentacles you want to fight? You're fighting Hezbollah in the north. They pretend it's Hamas, but you're killing Hezbollah terrorists. According to Hassan Nasrallah, you know, that big bear that's living underneath the ground. In Arabic, he says you've killed 100 of his terrorists, but in English, somehow that 100 equals 78. Because, you know, Arabs don't know how to count. According to you, you're retaliating to the exact point where the missiles were shot to you. Meaning, instead of these being Hezbollah terrorists, it should have been Hamas terrorists. But it's Hezbollah terrorists. So you're fighting the Hezbollah on one side, that's one tentacle. Hamas on the other side, that's another tentacle. Houthis on the other side, that's another tentacle. How many tentacles you want to fight? And you think if you take them out, they're not going to put a new one in there? Isn't there an Islamic jihad tentacle there too? Isn't Fatah saying that they want all Jews dead? And supposedly they're the calm ones? Mahmoud Abbas's Fatah, who were thrown off the roofs by Hamas, are now backing Hamas against you. Doesn't that mean exactly what I just said? A Muslim has two options in life. Either educate themselves and leave Islam, or unfortunately, obey Islam and become a terrorist. There are no other options. There's no middle ground. Because if you choose a middle ground, according to Islamic ideology, you are also a non-believer. The Quran says so. It says, don't take them as your friends. Because if you do, you are one of them. They cannot take the Jew, you Mossad, and they cannot take me, the Christian, as their friend. If they do, they become one of us. And then the penalty is death. They don't have that option, unfortunately. That's why they're protesting all over the world. And they're getting bigger and bigger. You want to stop it? Go after the head of the snake. For you in the West, let me share some stuff with you. Soon you'll have this picture show up. In the meantime, I'm going to make it bigger. As big as we possibly can make it. That's as big as I can make. While we wait for you to get it, I'm going to drink some tea. We're looking at the Republican election. The results show something good. I'm going to go through it with you very fast because most of you know this. But what you don't know, I'm going to point out for you. Donald Trump is, of course, leading with 61%. He's followed by DeSantis with 18%. Donald Trump is obviously the number one choice. This is the only person amongst this group that has shown in his works where he stands. He was hard on the Islamic Republic of Iran. He was on the verge of getting rid of that whole entire government. If he had made the deal that he wanted to make, Islamic Republic of Iran would be left toothless, clawless, without ever being able to come to a fight with Israel. It would have had to acknowledge the country of Israel, its sovereignty, which means at that point, Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, Hamas, and the rest would become nullified, and all the tentacles would have to fall, which would mean it would have backlash from its own supporters in Iran, which would mean majority of the Iranians who also don't like Islamic Republic of Iran could then use that as a means of trying to topple the regime without being killed by supporters of Islamic Republic of Iran, which would mean a lot of peace for the whole entire Middle East region. But unfortunately, the voting was changed by computer. Numbers of people voting showed up that no one can find. The dogs were voting. Sure, we can say some of these were, mistakes, and everywhere has mistakes, and we can add some of it for mistakes. But then again, a guy who used to do circle lectures with 6 people in it ended up getting the majority of the vote. And that guy doesn't seem to even remember that he is the president himself. So there is a lot of doubt over how legitimate the election was. That is for you as an individual to decide. Next, we have DeSantis. DeSantis showed that he doesn't have a strong backbone like President Trump does. Because when the Democrats try to pull and lure fake accusations to put Donald Trump in court over nonsense, DeSantis did not say anything. And by not saying anything, he has held the 18% Democrats who voted for him hostage of backing Donald Trump against the Democrats. So in other words, he has shown that he'll pull Republicans away from the person that truly stands for Republicans. We have Nikki Haley next. Nikki Haley worked as a cabinet member for Donald Trump, was ordered to go defend the people of Iran against the United Nations, against a bunch of countries that if the United States blows towards them, they would fall apart, like Kazakhstan and Kuwait and Qatar and a bunch of others. But as we saw, she caved, she couldn't do much, and nobody really did anything with it, and she lost. Later on, she quit. She wanted to become a governor. And apparently, she didn't get that because she's now running for president. Her whole idea is, I'll push the beat of a war so that those companies that create weapons can back me, and because they will make money, I'll have a big support. The next one is Vivek Ramaswamy. He is the guy that flip-flops on everything he says. When he goes and speaks for the Jews, he's backing the Jews, and the United States has to go and help the Jews. When he talks to Piers Morgan, all he wants to do is vocally support Israel and nothing else. He says he wants to put America first. Sounds like something Donald Trump said 4 years ago. He attacked Donald Trump in his book to make Stacey Abrams happy. He's the same guy that used to sit and learn from Al Sharpton and vote Democrat, but says he's been voting Republican for years. Yet he says this is the first year he's running for the Republicans, and he was independent before that. He's the guy who says he was broke and he took money from George Soros. Rather, we found out he was a multimillionaire during the time when he took money from George Soros. He's the same guy who sold the same drug 3 times over for Alzheimer's and put it on the stock market and made a lot of money off of that, became a millionaire. And then we found out that the drug is a bust. And he knew about it because he did it 3 times in a row, same drug. He's the same guy who's married to a physician. And of course, the physicians were all beating the drum of COVID vaccine. You must take the COVID vaccine. You must take the COVID vaccine. This is the savior. And now he's flip-flopping on that and says COVID vaccine is no good. Vivek Ramaswamy, ladies and gentlemen. He's the same guy that went ahead and did his first debate, and he took all the lines word for word from Obama's debate and speeches, and used that. He's the same guy that as soon as you put him in a corner and you standing straight in front of him, he starts to attack your family members and your personality. Just look at what he was doing with Sean Hannity. He went on Sean Hannity's show because Sean Hannity wouldn't let him go and kept him and tried to push him on his flip-flopping. He decided to say Sean Hannity is fake news, and that's why he likes Tucker. When in a debate he can't stand up to a woman, he attacks her daughter and her high heels. Hey, Vivek, this isn't India, my friend. And he pretends that he's Christian, but he's really a Hindu. Why do you talk like as if you're a Christian when you're not a Christian? There's the same guy who apparently says he married his wife, and the engagement ring to his wife was a lollipop ring. You know what a lollipop ring is, right? It's a lollipop that's sitting on top of a ring. You give it to the little kids, like 3-4-year-olds, so they can suck on it and not talk or cry or point to stuff. And, you know, that was his engagement ring. You don't believe me? Go watch his program with Piers Morgan in the interview. And when Piers Morgan was shocked and looked at him like an owl with his eyes popped out of what this guy's saying, and he says he bought her a ruby ring. Multi-millionaire bought a ruby ring after a lollipop ring? Really? No diamonds, nothing. Now, who knows if the ruby ring is a real ruby ring or a fake one? I mean, you can get a $5 fake ruby ring, a glass that looks like ruby. I wouldn't put it past him. Vivek has been losing his points. His percentage had been falling after each debate. He is planted in this debate so that Democrats can have a way in. Same with Nikki Haley. Both of them are of Indian descent. Both of them think alike. Both of them are favored by the Democrats. When the Democrats favor a Republican, you know that that Republican is not fit for the job. Then we got Tim Scott. Tim Scott's been gradually rising. He's gradually winning people over. I believe he's a very good man, but he's not Donald Trump. The only reason why I say that is because he hasn't had a chance to show his work, whereas Donald Trump has had that chance and has shown his work. I believe Tim Scott would be a great cabinet member for Donald Trump. He's a powerful politician. He has backbone, and he will stand on what he feels is right. That is Tim Scott. Then you have Christie over here, who's as big as Santa Claus, if not bigger. And all he's here to do is bash Trump. Another rhino. Same with Burgum. Same with Hutchison. All they do is bash, 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 and bash. And the Republicans show them the result of that bash, 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 and bash by not giving them any votes. The only reason why Republicans entertain these 7 is in case, God forbid, the Democrats can somehow stop Trump from running, at least we'll have a number 2. And in this race, really out of the 7 left, excluding Trump, it's a race between DeSantis and Tim Scott. And I hope you spread this by sharing this with all the English-speaking people you know, so that they don't get fooled by Nikki Haley and Vivek Ramaswamy, because both of them are up to no good. In reality, we have one hope. That hope is Donald J. Trump. Next, I'm going to show you the fake and real map of the region called Palestine. There is no country called Palestine. There is a region called Palestine. Like there is a region called the Gulf of Mexico. It's not a nation. It's not a country. It doesn't belong to a specific country. It's the name of a region. Just like the Persian Gulf. That's right. It's not Gulf. It's not a Gulf. It's Persian Gulf. Every place has a name. You can't just make up and call stuff whatever you feel like it. When you say Gulf, you have to specify what Gulf. Are you talking about Gulf of Mexico or Persian Gulf? It has a name. When you say Thunder Bay, you don't say Bay, you say Thunder Bay. Which Bay? Thunder Bay. Hudson Bay. You don't just say Bay. You don't just say sea. What sea? The China Sea. You need to say the actual name. When you see them refer to Persian Gulf as the Gulf, know that that is the work of globalists, because they want to change the map of the region. Hence, they don't want to use the names that currently exist. Likewise, there is a region that's called Palestine. Not a country, a region. If we go by the 4 maps at the top, which are the fake maps, the maps that the Muslims like to tell you about, the maps that the communists, ideology coming out of Russia, like to tell you about, they will show you a map that was mostly green with little dots of white in it. They'll say in 1946, this was Palestine, a country. And then UN had a plan the year after, in 1947, to split it in half for the Jews. And they say the Palestinians went with it. And then they say in 1949 to 1967, the Palestinians went to war with the Jews, and they want to make it so that the Jews were the aggressors. And the reason why they were the aggressor is because they took land. And then they want to say, now there is very little left because they keep losing land. However, in reality, in 1946, it was the United Kingdom that was in charge of this region called Palestine. The whole thing was United Kingdom. Just like United Kingdom is still in charge of Canada. Canadian money goes to the royal family of England. Just like United Kingdom is still in charge of New Zealand, Australia, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Ireland, well, not the whole of Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales. You see? United Kingdom never gave these places up. It still has them. A whole bunch of islands too, that it also has. At that time, it also had this region, but it promised it back to the original owners of it, which are the Jews, the Israelis. Hence, the year after, in 1947, under United Nations plan, they decided, well, we'll give a portion of it back to the Arabs. There is no such thing as Palestinian today. Palestinians are a bunch of people that left the island of Crete, which is part of Greece, and came down to this area, called themselves Phoenicians. Then later on, they eventually became Palestinians because they lived in a region that was already called Palestine, and they took the name of the region. When they came to this area, the Jews were already here. In fact, it was the Jews that gave them safe haven so that they can be Phoenicians. Now, United Kingdom decided we'll give half of it to the modern day Arabs who came in, invaded that land when they came in with Islam, killed off the Jews and the original Palestinians, invaded it, had their own babies, continued to speak their own Arabic language, which is not the language of the original Palestinians, but these Arabs who so call themselves Palestinians rejected this deal. By rejecting this deal, the whole area became Israel. And during 1949 to 1967, multiple wars, multiple parts of the land was lost to Jordan and other places, Egypt, and eventually they fought back. They took that land back and had all of it. After a lot of pressure, after 1967 to 1995, they decided we'll go with a two-state resolution and will give Palestine parts of this land back so they can have something. They split it into two. The reasoning for this is because the Palestinians didn't get along with Palestinians. They have the Fatah movement, which was what Yasser Arafat and Mahmoud Abbas belonged. They have the Hamas part. They have the Islamic Jihad part. They have many, many others too. They don't get along. When Israel left Gaza, Hamas came in charge and took all the Fatah leaders and threw them off the top of buildings and ordered the Palestinians to stone them to death, which is what they did. Nobody complained about that, apparently. Nobody called that a genocide. By the way, in a genocide, you're supposed to lose people, not gain people. How is it that the Palestinians are doubling and tripling and quadrupling in numbers, but yet they're in a genocide? Have you ever thought about that? The next picture, Donald J. Trump sitting in his office. He's got a bunch of frames in the back with different influential people. These are people he admires. These are people he wants to be like. These are people that he has learned from by studying their histories. And who do we see? The one that's circled with an arrow to it. That is the former king of Iran, king of kings, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. The king that people in Iran till today say to him, may his spirit be happy for all that he did for the Iranian people. The Iranians were bamboozled by Ayatollah Khomeini, who's really an Indian Sikh. His religion was Sikh, and he pretended to be a Muslim. And he became an implanted spiritual leader of Iran by Jimmy Carter, and of course, his advisor of the time, Joe Biden. That is why Joe Biden is grandfather of terrorists. He creates all these terrorists and keeps them alive. Whereas Donald Trump is a backer of the monarchy of Iran, a monarchy whose king, the West, in the time of Jimmy Carter, likes to call a dictator, but in reality was doing everything to benefit the lives of the people of Iran. He was our Donald Trump. He was the man that was making Iran great again. He had the same ideology that Donald Trump had. In the time of Mohammad Reza Shah, kids went to school and they got free breakfast and the school was free. Today they have to pay for school and there is no breakfast. In Mohammad Reza Shah's time, your university was even paid fully. And all you had to do was come back. They would give you a job and you would spend a few years working while being paid. And they would say your debt is paid. They don't take anything out of your account, by the way. You didn't have a university debt to pay like you do in the West. You come, you earn a living, you work, you live your life, and they say you provided several years of service, doing what you're doing, earning a living, your debt is paid. And the West called that a dictator. He's a man who was improving every aspect of livelihood in Iran, from hospitals to schools to owning land, to becoming educated, to even having a share in the factory you work. If you go to work, you work in a factory, and that factory makes profit, at the end of the year, the owner of the factory had to give you a little bit of percentage of the earning he made. On top of the bills that you pay and the money you make, he has to give you a percentage because you have a share in his factory. You don't even have that over here. He's a man who wanted to end hunger in Iran, where we would have no homeless person. Today, everyone's looking in garbage dumps for food. The dumpsters, they fight over it. Yeah, they call this poor man a dictator. Why? Because Democrats have to push their agenda. Just like today, they say anything about Donald Trump. They say his accountants did a crime for doing their job as an accountant and doing their job well, and that is a crime now. They tell him in court, we didn't bring you here so you can speak. Well, what kind of testimony is he supposed to give? And they yell at his lawyer, control your client, put a gag on him. The people that did that are the same ones that call this great king a terrorist. Yet the same people that call this great king a terrorist said Khomeini will be the man that will bring peace to the Middle East. Jimmy Carter, Joe Biden. So support this man. Support Donald J. Trump. He is your savior. We saw what happened when people didn't support Mohammad Reza Shah. Iran became the Islamic Republic of Iran, a country that is the number 2 biggest gas reserves on the planet, the number 3 biggest oil reserves on the planet, a country that has gold, has all kinds of minerals, salt, all kinds of fruits, vegetables, everything is destroyed. It's turned into one of the worst third world countries on the planet. And they want to do the same to the United States of America. Deja vu is what they call it. You have a power to stop it. I hope you take advantage of it. In this map, you will see the over 1 million people that have been killed in the Middle East between the year of 2011 and 2021. This was the pre-steps to the current war you see now, which is a pre-step towards a regional war, which will be a pre-step towards a World War III. It breaks down for you percentage-wise how many people died where. The reasoning for that was they needed to weaken the governments so that they have a relaxed border. So from Afghanistan all the way to Israel, people can travel, especially terrorists, without any government standing in front of them, closing the doors on them, so that weapons and terrorists can be moved across towards Israel, so that we would have a giant regional war. This was the breakdown of it. Weaken the Iraqi government, weaken the Syrian government. Iran will put a green light for Afghanis to enter Iran. Yemen to be able to do what it wants. Turkey was involved in it, and they're sending their green light. ISIS operated out of Turkey into Syria. This is the plan. This is how the war went on. So they've been working on it, but the people have been asleep. It's time for the people to wake up. We don't need a World War III. We got to stop this World War III. Israel is trying to do what it can. But the head of this octopus is Iran. Unless you remove Islamic Republic of Iran officials and change that government, the world will eventually be sucked into World War III. That's where you, the viewer, will be in danger. Mr. Mossad, you are definitely in danger. People like me are absolutely in danger. So if you want to stop that, now is the time. Elect the right officials for your country. Put your pressure behind them. Make sure they stop Islamic Republic of Iran. That is world priority number one. Of course, in your country, matters with your country are number one. But when it comes to the world, the number one matter is stop the biggest terrorist aiding government on the planet, and all the little terrorists will die out of no more money. Then it's easy to take them all out and have proper peace. With that, I will leave you in the hands of Jesus till tomorrow. If you like this program, don't forget, subscribe to our programs, like our programs, leave comments underneath our programs, share our programs, and invite others to our programs. Till tomorrow, I leave you